all these serious coppers over there, and we were over there kind of waiting to get on a train, and suddenly these like heavy duty coppers turned up and said, "What the fuck are you lot doing?" You know, and we're like 18 by then. Yeah. And it's like, oh, we're jumping on freight trains. And it suddenly started sounding a bit stupid. And before it was kind of seemed all right. So I guess we must have been about 60, 50. I think we were 50.
It was before the spraying. We picked up the spray. Yeah, started spraying.
Yeah.
But yeah, we sort of moved from jumping freight trains, after, especially after the accident. It was a wake-up call to moving into graffiti.
Killa Kela podcast. KillaKelaOfficial.com.
Street Culture TV.
Beatbox created.
Killa Kela.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killa Kela podcast.
Right, we're going to jump into this. I'm going to set off the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, Killa Kela podcast, live and direct, Central London, or as central as you need to be. Choose to be, could be. Believe me, you don't want to be anywhere else. After 600 plus podcasts, you should know better if you even try, think, consider doing so. Okay, people, our sponsors, the mighty GKNIFTYHEADS, have 10,000 play-to-earn GraffPunks NFTs to give away. Get ready as London's white trash goes blockchain digital with Bitcoin Cash tokens locked into them to claim. Get yourselves over to the website GKNIFTYHEADS.com and play to earn now. Inside the house, as true as my pork pie hat is perched on my head for God knows how many episodes, these men have stood the test of time, and we're taking it right back to go back from early graffiti and troubles and strives and all the nuisance they caused themselves, right away through to some of the biggest major epic, from albums to playlists to greatest hits to part of the UK institution of music. We have KIX and MrB, aka Mike Lee. Madness inside the house. How are we, gentlemen?
Good afternoon, Mr. Killa Kela. Fine. Yeah, fantastic.
Doing worse, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
nice
big shout out to VIP Graffiti. Billy, Madness is definitely in the house.
Yeah.
How far have you guys travelled from?
I've travelled from Barnet, Gospel Oak to South Tottenham, and then a bus ride in some gridlock traffic. That was the longest part. But yeah, only several miles away. But yeah, nice sunny day for it. Did you get any hundreds and thousands? Any sauce with this?
What, a flake on top of your
Oh, no. Do you hear about that ice cream salesman out in the high street who was found brown bread in front of his ice cream van, covered in chocolate, strawberry sauce, hundreds and thousands, and the police believe he topped himself.
Certainly sounds like it, yeah.
Very good. See, a man about town, you see. And West Hampstead for you, Mike. You're West Hampstead.
Yes, I drove from West Hampstead. Did you not drive here then? Did you come back?
I don't drive in
public
London
transport?
anymore.
His car got a
I'll
car
push
in.
back. He doesn't. He keeps rolling them.
Oh, so he's
He's
going to
he's like me. He's got no patience.
As you can tell, this is going to be one hell of a podcast. These are the likely lads, the originals that have set precedents on the streets for a long time. And the banter only shows. I mean, on tour, you guys must be a fucking hoot.
It has its moments, yeah. It does have its moments. I'm trying to think of a spectacular one.
I mean, you're talking. Where to begin?
God,
That's decades
God.
of recite. It's a long time, my friend.
So, like highlights, you mean?
Let's jump into some highlights.
I mean,
Let's kick
obviously,
off.
I was, funnily enough, on Saturday, I was in the Archway Tavern. I know the governor in there. He's got a fantastic pub, very music friendly. Podcast there.
Nice.
Calling Stewart. Anyway, I know him that well. I've forgotten his name. Jesus. Anyway, that is the place where we used to leave to go to Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, on that roundabout near the toilets there. Yeah. So, and it was also, was it the first place we got the Prince?
Yeah, we received a single there, yeah. Anyway, that's the story. I mean, I can't remember anymore. I can remembering at various times.
Yeah.
That's, that we met at Archway and we all got a copy of the new single, yeah.
The Road Up North. John Asler, our sort of drummer, singer, manager, he presented us with it. Yeah.
Wow. He was the manager then, wasn't he, John?
Yeah. And there it had the little name on there.
Down hour after that, didn't it?
KIX.
With the managers, yeah.
Yeah. And what was the other... Another fantastic moment, of course, was on the roof at the at Buckingham Palace.
Wow. Oh yeah.
The Queen's Jubilee.
Wow.
That was good.
Yeah, that was kind of surreal, wasn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like looking from above there? Like, I mean, that must have been
The way that
Awesome.
Is it?
Wicked.
the land.
No, it was fucking mind blowing. Yeah,
No,
I
it
mean
was.
to be up there, you know, for people like us to be, you know, I mean, not it's all, you know, I don't know. It was a funny place though, but to be up there, yeah, it was something else.
Well,
yeah.
the way that-
I remember I've been watching when I was living in Holland. Hold on. I remember seeing Brian May from Queen, and and he was on the roof one year. They were always getting these awards, and we weren't ever getting anything. And he was up on the roof playing "God Save the Queen" on his, you know, down, down, down. And I remember thinking, you know, why him, not me? You know, why are they always, you know, certain bands were getting all this kind of treatment,
kind of British
and we never
establishment
got
figureheads.
anything. And then all of a sudden it all turned around. Yeah, it was like.
We were the boys next door, weren't we?
I don't know. It was somebody at the BBC who liked us, I think. It's sort of often it's just, you know, the luck of who you know, or, you know.
What, to get that gig?
To get that gig,
I-
yeah. I mean,
what was
who's
it?
going
What
to
was
come up with us for a gig like that at the time, you know? I mean, now it's like, who should we go?
I thought-
get
I
Madness
thought-
in for that.
I thought I'm going to use a big word here. I thought Beddar's procured that gig.
Well, he may well have done it, so you know,
not
isn't
sure
it? I
it
mean,
was
he
that-
must have
that or
known
the
someone to
Olympics.
procure it, no.
Was that all the Olympics? Get
I
mixed
think it
up
was the
there.
Olympics, yeah.
No.
Cool, you are
Go on,
taking it,
Money
but it's,
told me so
you'll be
bad.
forgiven not to remember, you know. I mean, and, you know, this is the long
done the
history.
Anyway, it
Olympics?
was great. It was fantastic to be
Anyway,
up there.
I would've
Really
thought-
fantastic, yeah. I mean, on the roof as well. It's like, you know, it was our kind of terrain, you know, because like when we were kids, we always used to, you know, go into all these kind of. I mean, you know, when I used to love these like places that were off the beaten track where you. I mean, the other day I was coming down to where you were talking about at Tufnell Park.
Yeah.
Was it Tufnell Park? Anyway, in Tufnell Park, you know, by the Acklenburley School.
Yeah.
And there's a little brick wall. You're coming down the road. There's a railway under there. You would never know. And there's this little brick wall. And you just think it's, you know, whatever. You don't think about it. And as kids, we would be over that wall. And then there's this tunnel. And you had about 2 metres.
No,
No,
it's
about
just-
a metre.
I passed
and we're
through there
fucking
today. I passed through there
climbing
today.
under there. You know,
And it
we
got
were going
narrower
everywhere.
and narrower. It's getting a bit claustrophobic.
Well, that's it, right at the end. It's really narrow. But we discovered all these places that kind of fascinating because they were completely unknown to the general public. And so we were always going out exploring in these different places. And then, I suppose part of it was sticking your name up in spots where, you know, people think, how the hell did he get up there? You know,
So you know I'm dealing with professionals here. That segue came absolutely natural there. You know, there's no prompting from me
This
whatsoever.
fella's
Supposed to
lucky
be
to
talking
be
about
alive
graffiti.
because we regularly used to get out of town just to travel, you know, Nuneaton or Coventry or Southend or that was a way of sort of passing a bit of time instead of standing at the bus stop.
Well, it was always, I
Plus
mean, it
sniffing
saved
glue.
money, number one. It was a cheap way of travelling.
Because it was your freight jumping that you guys were kind of...
That's what
getting
it
off on, yeah.
started, and the best were the cars because they left them open. You sat in there, you have your party 4, your party 7, never make a mess. Put the radio on, put the seat back, and next minute you're wherever, travelling off in
Yeah,
comfort.
it was, anyway, it was just exploring unexplored spaces,
Yes.
wasn't it? Yeah.
And it came
kind of-
to a crunch, Mikey boy,
Yeah.
when you had a bit of an accident, you and Gary
Had
Watt.
a headbutt with a fucking tunnel, you know.
What? You had a headbutt with a tunnel?
Like, we were in the
Yeah,
car.
I always felt kind of, you know, really
that was-
under control and completely safe. And anyway, one time we were on a freight train with double with the cars, you know, and you
On the
you know you
roof.
climb up on it, and we're on the wheel tracks. We're going along the side of the cars, you know, because there's not a lot of space. And all of a sudden, two men down as we went under them tunnels, and they got that low edging, you know, they're quite tight on the carriages.
You're only going 15 mile an hour,
Well,
probably, but
I mean, luckily, yeah, because it would have been fucking, you know, it would have been it.
Yeah.
And faster.
Right.
But I always thought I was kind of, you know, on my toes, ducking and diving, ready for all eventualities. And suddenly, bang, and two of us got it on the back of the head, yeah.
No, you got it, yeah. Gary
And
got
that
it on the
was-
back. What happened? Someone got out and they were switching the headlights on, I think, and it was lighting. And it was like a Spielberg film, lighting up the whole tunnel. Hey! And then Gary got out, and Paul, our friend, has gone. Gary's out of the car. He's got to get in the car quick. Let's get him. And I went, no, don't get out. And then you must have got out to get him to get
Oh,
back
yeah.
in the car.
Oh, I
Because
don't remember that.
you called him, and I think he looked smacked on the back of the head, and he opened his head up on a car bumper.
What?
So he's got a gash there, and it was that indented that he didn't sort of bleed or anything, thank God. But then we're all dressed up, and this is the mid-70s, you know, sort of IRA sort of time, and we had like black sleeves of jumpers on that we cut holes in, all dressed in black. Thought it was the fucking SAS or something. And we got off, and we're somewhere in Willesden.
Kensal Rise by coincidence.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah, in a back
Kensal-
garden in
was it-
Kensal Rise.
Yeah, and there's a
We're all
Greek-
suddenly getting over some bloke's back wall, you know, like dark. It was dark
there was a party
outside.
going on, and it was a Greek wedding.
Oh, yeah, right. I don't
It
remember.
was, yeah, it was,
I don't
it was
remember
good.
that.
And we're sort of, Gary's like, fucking, is you're like that, all gone all yellow and that. And there ain't just the three.
So how old were you? How old
8
were you?
or 9 of us. About 6.
16,
16?
15, 16, 16, maybe 17.
Yeah,
16.
it was before the
No,
spraying.
16. I mean, I remember, because we used to get up to all this kind of thing, and at a certain point, we were getting a bit old for it. I remember it was a little bit embarrassing. One time we were over the railway, like we often used to do as kind of entertainment, and there'd been this robbery done, of a train robbery, and somebody had messed around with the lights on the back of the freight trains. And suddenly there were all these serious coppers over there, and we were over there kind of waiting to get on a train, and suddenly these like heavy duty
came out of nowhere,
coppers
yeah,
turned up and said, "What the fuck are you lot doing?" You know, and we're like 18 by then.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we're jumping on freight trains. and it suddenly started sounding a
Dawning
bit
on you.
stupid. And before it was kind of seemed all right. So I guess we must have been about 60, 50. I think we were 50.
It was before the
or something.
spraying. We picked up the spray. Yeah, started spraying. I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we sort of moved from jumping freight trains, after, especially after the accident. It was a wake-up call to moving into graffiti, which Woolworths was very accompanying.
Yes, accommodating.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
like the shop you got here now, there was none of that. I mean, people used to say. I mean, when we first started doing it, there was kind of articles in the paper coming from the States, and you kept seeing, you know, on the side of the subways there doing the mega kind of classic graffiti styles, you know. But over here, there was nobody doing it.
No.
So there was also, you know, I remember they were talking about going to car shops. I can't remember. I mean, we used to kind of sneak a lot of stuff in those days. So buying it was kind of not on the, you know,
On
we
the
didn't have any
register.
money.
Yeah.
So,
No.
and also sometimes we got some of those spray paints and they didn't cover. They had no coverage. You spray it on the wall and you couldn't hardly see it.
Yeah. Kind of
disappear.
see through.
It was
and
very
that, yeah.
unsatisfactory. And then we found these shoe sprays, didn't we, in Woolworths? They had silver and gold, from what I remember, and that was brilliant because, you know, you do like one line and it's like
It
gold,
held.
you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really
yeah,
shiny,
yeah.
and it's like chrome and stuff. But obviously these days, I mean, you know, what you see these days is
Insane.
fantastic with
Yeah.
the colours and everything, you know, and it's gone into a whole nother league. But, you know, we were groundbreakers, so we didn't have all
Yeah.
that
What
kind
was
of
the
equipment.
what? I mean, my earliest
So we used
memory.
to
of
get
the-
big bags of it. We used to go in Woolworths and we'd have like 10,
Clear-
15.
clear.
I remember one time particularly, and we had like 16 cans of spray, you know. That we suddenly somehow
black, gold,
managed
and
to get hold
silver.
of.
Black, gold, and silver. The only three you could get. I can't remember there being any other colours.
Well,
but
I
there
remember
must-
maybe I was kind of involved.
Maybe
in it, I
it's
don't
because
know.
it was Woolworths and it was.
But
you know,
I was of the opinion exactly that the other cans didn't work. The other colours weren't satisfactory.
No.
These ones.
Right.
I suppose it's something you don't want to hang about too long either. You want to be quickly in and out. You know?
That's it. There was no cameras at all. Really, I can't remember there being any cameras.
No, I don't think so, not in those days. But I remember another thing which is kind of interest is that you kind of learn a fair amount about the railways and how they work. And they would have these electric, you know, they have a railway
Right.
and they have electric rail as well, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you can see, hold on, this one's a bit different.
Yeah. No,
And
I
he
got.
was a right idiot. There were some people
Fucking-
were jumping on it. And we had this story that if you had Dr. Martens, you couldn't get a shock, you know.
Yeah, that's the theory, right? Yeah, I've heard that story. Yeah,
I mean,
That
I
ain't
wouldn't want
true.
to test it myself.
I got
some
thrown.
people were all fucking doing.
Yeah,
Sorry,
not
not French.
Yeah.
Some people were testing it out. I remember, and they're jumping on
know,
it, and I was like,
Typical boys stuff, yeah.
No,
Let's see
don't
what happens
do
if I
that.
touch that or burn
But
that.
we used to, and on the tubes they got the same system. So sometimes we'd be down a tube, and obviously the real daring one was to do it on the wrong side of the tracks, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Right.
I don't know, a train would go and we'd quickly whip over, and all the passengers are like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And we'd do a quick one. But like I said, though, it's got to be pretty quick. So we'd do a little bit of silver, we'll put our name up,
remember
or
the
tag,
old-
or whatever they used to call it.
Tag now, is it called
It's a
tag?
tag. It's
On the tubes, not unlike now, you used to have 2 or 3 carriages that would have the driver's thing in between.
Yeah, that's
with the
right.
steering.
Yeah.
So you could open, obviously unlock. You go in there, down the window, and then on the other side spray your name, yeah? You remember
Right,
that?
I don't remember that.
And then the
one,
train would pull away, and then the people would think, how on earth have they got over there?
Yeah.
Of course, you're just leaning out the window, but of course, they are no more. Those,
We did get a bit of
Quite
feedback
good.
in that department. I mean, I've met quite a few people who said, "Oh, I saw, I remember those days, and I remember looking and seeing your name over the bridge, and we were all, like another gang of kids, and they're all thinking, how did they do that?" It was all kind of innocent. I don't know. Those days were,
yeah.
a lot more innocent than these
It's
days.
funny you say that because I've got big up Scar and I've got big up Met CBM who are they're staunch historians in Graff as many of my friends are, and the indelible mark that I think you guys left, it isn't often recited. I mean, there was books, there was writing on the wall and such that
George Melly done the foreword, but that writing on the wall, wrote that book. So I left mine with that studio engineer,
I
Liam.
remember the book. Yeah. I remember the book. Yeah, and it got remade
Right.
a while back. And
it really captured a
Really
moment,
pretty.
which
Yeah.
I guess is you can never be replicated. I mean, what was the landscape like back then for London?
Oh, good God.
well, what I was just going to say. Oh, sorry.
Pre-Thatcher, it was a bit grim, I suppose, a bit sort of smoky and, I don't know.
Some ways, the physical kind of landscape was a bit grim, I think, but on a social, I mean, that's what I think is kind of interesting about, when they look back on the 70s these days and they say all the strikes and everything, it was terrible, but in fact, working people had maybe a bit of a better chance at it than these days. There's so much inequality now. In those days, there was a lot. It was a lot more equality. Yeah. So I mean, people in the dustbins. Remember?
Yeah.
They would be getting like really, really good money. And at a certain point, when Thatcher came in, indeed, it was like, well, we don't need dustmen getting that kind of pay.
Yeah.
And it all went down to Not that I'm involved in that area, so whatever.
No, but I landed up becoming a dustman for about a month.
Yeah.
My wife was like, I said the music had taken a low, the band had split or whatever, before the second coming, Finsbury Park and all that. I was pulling the blankets up and just flopping about. She went, you got to snap out of it.
Yeah.
It's going in a right spiral. And I landed up getting a job on the dust. And I think I'd done about a month. And then fortunately, I was offered a job fly posting.
Really?
For Mark, the posters that you put up everywhere, which now they put anti-poster things. They've cleaned up Camden anyway. But when I was on the dust, oh, mate, I've got some stories anyway. I'll read the book. Anyway.
Yes.
They were privatising it, and some were taking the payoff at this branch in Barnet. And some were taking it the payoff, and some of the workers were super gluing the locks and slashing the tyres, so you couldn't do bugger all. Yeah, and it was in a right mess, and that was sort of 89, 90, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway.
But there was a lot more. There was a lot more. One thing. I mean, it was a lot more kind of less regulated in those days, and everything was just less regulated. Like parking, you could park. People used to park anywhere, and I remember some people like, he's got 60 parking tickets he hasn't paid, and nothing would kind of happen.
Chilled, yeah.
So in some ways it was a little bit kind of chaotic, but well, that's what I wanted to say. One thing particularly, I remember somebody got stabbed once in Kentish Town area, but it was a really big shock at the time. That and you know, kids would like, you know, there'd be, you know, they'd have rucks and stuff, but generally they wouldn't be using stuff like knives and things, you know.
Who's that, Kennedy, you mean? Or...
You don't remember? I just remember somebody getting stabbed one time, and then there was all people denying it, and it was apparently one person. But I just remember the mentality among all the kids at that time. It was like a bit shocked, you know. Bloody hell, what's he done?
Didn't
you know,
expect that.
He's done something. And nowadays it seems like, you know, some people get a knife out of the flesh of anything. You know what I mean? They're getting it straight out, and it's so that's all a bit mad from what it used to be. Yeah, so it used to be a lot simpler. I think.
Yeah, like graph was like the last thing you need to worry about from a from a social point of view.
So it was a lot simpler then, and there was a lot more like, you know, places you could rehearse, for example. You know? Nowadays it's all kind of monetized, everything, and it's kind of it's much more difficult. So it's a lot more freer and more open then. I think. Yeah.
I have to
So
bring
it was
up
quite
this.
not bad. It was
Yeah,
not
I
a
can
bad
imagine.
time to grow up.
No, it definitely weren't. We caught the tail end of it, so
So a lot more freedom. You know,
Next
wasn't it?
generation. Yeah, absolutely.
Now you're much more boxed in, I think. And like even kids, you know, like when we were very young, we all used to play on the street, you know. Your mum would kick you out and she'd say, be back at 5 for dinner or something. And I remember being, God knows how old, 6 years old, 5, 7. I mean, I might be getting it slight wrong, but very young, just out doing whatever we wanted and coming home, and that was it. And, you know, and everybody was like that. And nowadays, you see all these mums driving the kids to school, picking them up from school. You know, they're like so protected. My little, you know.
Chelsea tractors and stuff just kind of getting in the way of the high street just to protect their.
Getting in the way of me, but very
I'm trying to
These
move.
big, like, you know, it's like an armoured car. It's like, you know, what the bloody hell? What do you need that for, you know? Some woman behind it. I won't say anything like that. Trouble driving and manoeuvring, but having a big car like that,
It's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot.
So it's very changed like that. And then you could just play on the street. Everyone was so much easier and all, you know. Now everybody complains. I mean, anyway,
Technology.
I've got another story. When I started, when we were doing an album, we see,
da. In your shops.
Before we started
Your
it,
shops now.
before we started it, I'd got this theory. I don't want to do it all on the computer. I'm going to do it on the piano. I'm just going to do write real songs with a piano. And I was in Amsterdam at the time, and I sat down, you know, album. Let's start writing some songs. I started playing. 20 minutes into playing, there's a woman downstairs with a fucking broomstick. Dog, shut the fuck up.
Not having it. Really?
Do you realise who I am, madam? I'm just working on a new album.
Yeah. Trying to make magic here.
So
I don't need a tempo. I don't need a metronome.
So everybody complains these days and all. Anyway, I'm all...
No.
So it didn't used to be like that. You know, it used to be much more open and people were more accepting and kind of chilled with each other.
More relaxed.
Now it's much more uptight.
It was on a spring.
But it also
shells or springs.
But it also bred the sound. Where, you know, we're talking about ska era. You know, it was post punk, wasn't it? It was the collective of sounds, and Ian Jury and the Blockheads is one example I'm a big fan of, and you know, and then, you know, two-tone came into effect, and from what I understand, you guys were already operational in street culture, shall we say? Which
very much.
That was fact.
Yeah, I mean,
Can't speak, can't lie.
I mean, Camden Town is like the rock and roll capital. Well, was and probably still is. But it's a lot more relaxed. You could get gigs then. Now you've got to go through agents or record companies at some of these venues. But we regularly saw Kilburn and the Iros and all that sort of pub rock gang. But Kilburn and the Iros, later Ian Dury and Blockheads, at Dingwalls. And that had a 1 o'clock licence, which was pretty handy. But I just remember the first time I saw him was in the Tally-O, which is opposite the Forums now. Block of flats, but climbing through the window and getting caught on the prongs, and then a fella coming in the toilet. It was him. What are you doing in here? I said, come to see the band. He said, well, you won't fucking see him in here. He's right moody, Kimmin. Oh, piss and that. And I sort of scampered off. Ooh, was he? He's with irons all over the place. And, what am I saying? Anyway, that place, you could go to several places and there'd be a band on, music on.
Great
and
bands,
Dingwall's, yeah, very,
Great music,
very good.
yeah.
Dr. Feelgoods and whatever, but yeah, in particular.
A bit of Hawkwind and things like that, you know, that kind of era.
Yeah,
Maybe a bit too soon.
Around us and Pink Fairies.
Keep the mics up,
Ludwig
lads.
Pink.
Sorry, keep the mics up. Else I'm don't want to lose you on this one.
Keep me ice cream.
Hawkwind, yeah. Well, they were having a hit that.
Silver.
I remember, you know, there's that story when we used to get the singles out of the. You could get. There was one period. I mean, I can remember that. You know, always my life is kind of. From music at a certain point, I can remember where I was at that certain time, and mainly from songs. And Hawkwind that you mentioned, I remember we used to go in Boots Chemist, and you had this hairspray, and they had this offer on. You take the lid off, and you get this little coupon to get a free single in a record shop.
Really?
And so we used to go in there, and we'd be taking them all out, you know. We'd have like 6 singles. And I remember Hawkwind was about at those times, yeah. Hawkwind, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, Camden has got such a heritage. You guys, some of the earliest gigs, wasn't it? You know, like the Dublin Castle, and you know, you see all the, you know, regalia and you know, archive photos, etc.
That was like an Irish folk club, wasn't it? Prior. Allo and Peggy were the owners at the time. They'd just sold up there. They had a peat patch in Ireland. That's what I heard back in the early 70s. They sold that off and bought that pub
in Camden,
and that's got a 24-hour licence. Did you know?
No, don't doubt it for a second.
No. Yeah, but they never use it. They shut at 2. Anyway, yeah, they can't remember who walked in. Was it yourself and Suggs? And said,
no, I didn't. I mean, no. Somebody went in there. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I can't recall. Maybe it's me and Chris.
And they said we'd play jazz music.
Yeah. What sort of music did you play? I said, a little bit sort of country, a little bit of jazz, yeah. Of course it wasn't. It was a mishmash of ska and punk, reggae and punk.
But they weren't bothered, were they? I mean,
no. Well, they sold, as long as they sold the beer.
When we were playing in them, we started to get a big crowd. I mean, in the very beginning, hardly anyone came. It was just, you know, my mum was out there and maybe a couple of family friends and stuff. I mean, we did that college. No, you didn't do it, did you? We had that girl playing the saxophone at that time.
Cinder.
Yeah, London City College.
Yeah, I was up in Luton. I couldn't get the fare to come down. I probably got caught bunking it or something.
What was it like being? Because I think for a lot of people that watch this, that you know, are striving and working. I know it was a different time back then, and in fact, that the law of averages of you making a success, it was narrowed down to like maybe 5 or 6 major record labels.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, you guys, the genre had its own independent labels, but from an observer as well as a participant, you're on stage. What's that feeling like over the course of, we'll call it for argument's sake, 4 or 5 months, where you actually feel the heat on the ground? There's a momentum building. Like, what's that feeling from an artist's point of view when you're onto? I think I'm onto something here. What you know? How does that feel?
I can't. But being a bit of a show off as I am, I mean, the more the merrier. Yeah, you know, there was. Anyway, it's just nice to be nice. Nice to be liked, and you could see, more and more. And then we got the residency in the hope and different faces are turning up, and then you see the same one, you know, probably how it was with David Payne from the Blockheads with me. You've been here a few times now, haven't you? You know, you get to see the same people turning up, and before you know it, I mean, it sort of happened pretty quick, really. We didn't really tread the floorboards for that long.
No, there was definitely a buzz. I mean, one thing that happened that I remember from that time was there was some woman kept ringing me up. We were trying to get gigs, and we were getting involved with these low-key promoters in London. And I remember ringing this woman who had booked a load of gigs, and she wasn't answering me calls, you know, and I got a complete blank with her. And then within a period of like 3 weeks, suddenly the phone didn't stop ringing, and it's her. You know, it's like, you know,
Mr.
Yeah,
Boat.
yeah.
no, you had your chance. So we
What
were
a beautiful position
bit
to
like
be
that.
in.
Yeah.
No, it was amazing. I remember one time in the Dublin Castle as well, some bloke coming up to us from Manchester or somewhere, which was, you know, God knows where Manchester was, you know. In those days, it was a hell of a long way away. And he was talking about, well, that was when the single was coming out, and he was saying, oh, we've been trying to buy the single, and he was kind of, in what he was telling me, I was getting this picture of a up in Manchester,
Yeah.
they're looking up for our song, you know. And it's like, what the hell, you know, what's going on? And that was, for me, the first moment when I thought this is... And that was like specials were happening in as well. And it was just, you know, just the...
So this is when the Prince was out, right?
Yeah, so that was later when we... But that was... I mean, we were obviously definitely getting bigger then. But it was a very short period, wasn't it?
It was really short. I mean, yourself and Suggs went to see the specials. You caught them in the basement of the Hope and Anchor.
I saw him in West Hampstead in the Railway Tavern. They had a room at the back. That was mine. I thought they were brilliant. I mean, I thought they were better than... I wouldn't say better than us, but... Not maybe musically, but maybe musically. I mean, what they were, it just sounded, you know. I mean, I used to listen. We all used to listen to that reggae music from brothers, and you know, my brother was always buying records, and so there was a period when, you know, Desmond Decker and all these, you know, reggae artists were really being big in the UK.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it was a resurgence. From that period. But anyway, we'd heard all that music, but that was Jamaican music, you know, it wasn't like, you know, and every now and then you'd get some band playing a reggae song, and it was always really naff. Like these rock bands, in those days there was all these rock bands. This is like before punk, and they couldn't play it, and, you know, and it all just reeked of, you know, like lack of interest and like, let's do a reggae song.
Tick the box kind of thing,
And it wasn't, you know, it was terrible. So we kind of got into it, and we were listening to it, and we really loved that music. So we wanted to do it properly, you know. And then I went to see the special. So we felt like we were getting somewhere. We were getting somewhere. But, you know, and that was just one of the kind of musics that we did. We were quite eclectic, or what we called it. Anyway, I went to see the specials, and it was like, you know, it sounded... I suddenly heard that music that I loved.
And they were playing it,
played, and they
Brad had that rim
on.
Yeah.
You know, they really looked cool and everything. It was just fucking brilliant,
Breath of fresh air.
So, yeah, that was like, you know, went home from that gig that night thinking, wow, you know, that's fucking... you know, that was very inspiring, I guess,
Yeah, but
and it pushed us. But then it kind of, you know, it was a whole thing going on, wasn't there? They were suddenly starting to happen, and then we were starting to happen.
It's just
it was like
it's that old cliche, right time, right place. I mean, you know, fortunately,
it was a wave.
Jerry,
I think
you're
right.
Right, you know? That way. And
then there was a lot of other people who joined on when they saw the wave. I won't mention any names. But I was listening to some the other day. Anyway, there was all those girl bands, weren't all of a sudden coming out kind of woodwork. But maybe they, I don't know where, you know, what were their body...
Girl bands, what are you talking
about?
Body snatchers, not Go-Go's.
The Go-Go's, they were not doing... No.
It's so interesting to hear that there was these small storm in the teacups of rivalry, and all of a sudden these people coming in. I mean, it's no different to every single genre that you know that comes.
I mean, it's like a plant grows, you know, and in the beginning it grows and it's all fresh and new, and that's what it was like when we first started. You know, there's a new blossom coming and it's new and everything, and then it's getting a little bit older. Then it's getting a little bit older, you know, and then you get other people getting drawn into it because that's what humanity's like. You know, we all follow each other.
Yeah. As much as you don't like admit it, you do it.
So we were lucky to be. I mean, I could say we were great, and that's why we were at the beginning. But you could also say we were very lucky to be there at that moment. So we were like on the breaking edge of it, you know. Yeah. And then there were others who got, you know, their following, you know. So we felt like we were breaking the wave, you know. And others are kind of, you look and you say, you know, they're coming because it's being a success, you know, whereas we were doing what we did, and that became a success. So it was a fantastic experience, But
the thing is, with your lineage, and again, it goes back to the origins of the street with the graph, with, you know, with the train hopping and all the escapades, right the way through to making music, you know, working with instinct of what is hot and happening, out on the street, you guys cultivated and created almost like a cult classic. And when you're ahead of the curve on something like that, to retain that, like you say, there's other contemporaries that are coming in from major labels and places like that. I mean, how did you sustain that period? Because it'd be really easy for people to plagiarize, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I can't. You could answer that
Well,
one.
I would just say that we love music. I mean, the way you describe it, I think that's kind of true. And there was a lot of, so we had something substantial behind us because we'd been hanging out together. We were mates, as you know, it's a kind of common known thing. We were mates who got together, a large part of the band, and then other kids who became part of the band, and we're a similar trajectory, and so fitted in very quickly and very easily into our kind of gang, as it were. But yeah, we had that history of building up, so that gave us a bit of strength, I think. And at the same time, we had a real love of music. So for us, it was the beginning. We had The Prince came out, great song, great track, right at the right place, right time. Really fitted perfect. I mean, it was a lot of synchronicity or whatever you might say.
Yeah.
Who knows? It was just happening. I mean, it was all coming together.
When I was a kid, there was this children's program, or do you remember Number 73 on ITV?
I do remember it.
Yeah, it's a very sepia time for a young Kela, you understand? But on entry, the dance moves. Like, whose idea was that? Absolutely spellbinding. You guys, it was the whole visual, likely lad not taking it seriously. But then there's these iconic moments in popular culture that you guys thought, like, whose idea was the dance moves?
Right. That was Carl and myself. We used to dance to, in particular, The Bogus Man by Roxy Music, and some New York Dolls.
Nice.
Not the Hoople stuff, but it was mainly the Roxy Music, where we'd sort of do some moves together. But
it's a part of what we were kind of growing up in, wasn't it? And it was our shared, we had a very shared kind of appreciation of, British culture at the time, like eating comedies and I suppose, what's his name, John Cleese,
Nice.
So you're seeing all that, you're drinking it all up, and then you're thinking, how are we going to dance? It's like almost, we already know how we're going to dance kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of
pre-packaged,
You kind of had the cameraman chasing you.
We grew up in and kind of came together at that moment. So then when I would see maybe him and Carl, and you would just think, spot on, that's great. And so you'd all be really a lot of confidence, I think, in the fact that we were all kind of on the same page at that time. Yeah.
Youthful wisdom.
Yes, that'll do. Yeah.
That'll do.
Yeah.
Which goes back to the original default of the graffiti. Which reminds me, you must tell that story about Berlin. What happened in Berlin with the Berlin Wall?
I mean, I don't even know. I can't even remember if you what's that saying? If you can remember, you wasn't there. Anyway, it was in Berlin, and the Berlin Wall was still up. So obviously before that.
First time we went there,
it was some Suggs got on top of the vehicle.
That big Russian woman in remember where you go through the
Checkpoint Charlie, yeah.
And it was just full of cliches. There's this woman, she's like a fucking tank, big Russian
Hattie
Russian
Jakes.
babushka lady, Anyway, sorry, yeah.
No,
So
there
we
was,
went
there
didn't
was,
we?
and Suggs got on top of the vehicle, a van that we were travelling about in, and got his black spray out and painted madness on the Berlin Wall.
That was in West Berlin, wasn't it? Yeah, no, I'm thinking we actually went into East Berlin before the wall came down, which was pretty amazing.
But
and there was those Trebek cars. I mean, it was fucking mad.
It's like old and new, right?
So it was kind of black and white anyway. It's kind of added to it.
Yeah.
But there was just this one car, and then all the streets were, there were a lot of difficulty parking. It was just like rows and one car. That's all they had. So we're coming from the West, Levi jeans and all that. And we were all thinking, we've got so much choice. We've got 4 cars. Or whatever. But it was experience. Anyway, sorry.
Someone wanted to buy those Levi jeans off me as it goes. I thought, can't go in me underpants. But so that was West Berlin, right? I thought it was East Berlin.
Yeah, and we went to look at the wall. I can't remember that,
That wall obviously has now all been smashed down,
Yeah.
but that's been left
A
up.
little bit, yeah.
Well, the one
Some-
with the madness.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
left
Somebody
it up.
must have said, "Hold on, let's keep that bit. It's got madness on it."
Were you guys the singular, writers? Was there other graffiti, writers within Madness? Did everyone enjoy a bit, appreciate it?
I think it's mainly Mike done. Suggs done some. Myself, Chris.
Yeah,
and you.
Suggs used to do that.
Not
big
so much
fat Suggs.
Martin
He still
was.
does it, that big fat Suggs letters.
Yeah, yeah.
See that, the one that Suggs did, for example, like that one you got on the wall there. Those
yeah,
puffy
yeah.
kind of blue.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know how to
Bubbly.
Yeah, the bubble.
If that's
bubble
3D,
letters, yeah.
what you're imagining, but
Yeah.
I didn't like that anyway. Suggs kind of did that, and I was thinking, he's exactly like I was saying before. He's following, he's following the train.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to, anyway, for what it's worth, I was trying to do it different, It's like, that's what they do in America. Why should we be doing it here,
Yeah.
We should do it in our way. We're going to do it a little bit different,
Well, a lot politically charged as well. A lot of the graffiti for that time as well, wasn't it?
There were people doing these in that book, yeah. I mean, I remember those
writing.
graffiti. I don't know who they were, kind of left-wing anarchists or something. Were going out and painting, mega big stuff. You just kind of accepted it back in the 70s. Didn't think too much about it, but those. I can't remember some of the phrases.
There was Twitch for Sam Surfer, which was the first bit of graffiti I done, which was done in gloss paint on a brick wall down in Archway, and there was "I'm a hog for you, Deirdre," and I think that was Mick Mahoney. Maybe I always had a rumour that it was Mick Mahoney's.
No,
playwright.
this is pre that period in the Elaborate Grove area. In that book that guy wrote, there's some of that.
Clacton is God, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that kind of period. Yeah, and something else about the poor or something. There was some kind of
not on the tube again, on the underground,
and on
the
bridges,
overground.
Yeah. But that was
Sleep.
kind of different. That was painted with like a bucket of whitewash or something. Yeah. Yeah, great to see a bit of. Anyway, I like that. People being original. Yeah.
Why did you guys stop? What kind of forced your hand to then venture into music?
Couldn't climb over the walls anymore.
Day job, no.
Yeah.
Got a real job.
Just sort of went through it pretty. I mean, how long did that period last? A couple of years again, like the freight trains, I suppose.
Yeah, it's kind
Just
of a part of your lifestyle, isn't it?
Part of
it's
the
what
course.
you're getting up to. I mean, I didn't find myself maybe at a certain point on a street corner with a can full of spray
Bag
paint.
full of
You're
smoke.
doing something else,
Yeah,
and so it
yeah.
kind of fizzled out like a lot of things do.
There were several youth clubs about at the time. The Fanet, the Blackfriars, which was more a dance club, and our one, which is the Aldenham Boys Club, AGB. And we'd spend quite a bit of time down there, wouldn't we? But we found ourselves being drawn more to jumping freight trains. So I said, "Do you go there once or twice a week?"
So you jump on a freight train?
No, the Aldenham. So I can't.
Yeah, I used to go to the Hall. Remember that? Well, that song, "It's a Little Bit Funny."
It's feeling it.
John was
that was
big.
on the jukebox.
That was it.
Right.
Yeah, there was the cafe part with the jukebox, and what was the other one? There? All right now.
Oh,
baby,
Free.
it's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right now. That was on there a lot.
Lily the Pink. Yeah. Anyway.
And I think, remember
This
that
is
holiday
beautiful.
we went
I
on?
love
This had nothing to do with graffiti, probably, and that was that song, "I rode my bicycle past your window last night."
Melanie, yeah.
Melanie was a big hit around then,
Yeah.
I mean, I never knew who she was. I thought it was a great song. I mean, when I found out she was
I got a
West Coast hippie, I was a little bit less keen on it. Not that there's anything wrong with but at that time I was not so into.
Got nothing against him, just don't want to rub against him.
West Coast. But it was a great sound anyway. That song, So they played those sort of songs in there, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they had that pool room, and the older kids, the 18-year-olds, were playing pool or billiards.
Snooker room, yeah.
In the snooker room.
It's soundproof with egg cartons. That was their soundproofing anyway.
And I got beat up, didn't I? Talking about violence.
yeah.
And
There was a Highbury. The
was
Highbury
a
come
sport
over.
hall
We were
next
getting a
to
bit
it.
of a name for ourselves, weren't we?
I wasn't. Somebody had done
Not you,
something.
no.
Somebody had had a
You were the
fight with
tallest
someone
fella.
somewhere, and they were coming back for revenge.
Really?
Yeah.
And I
It was a
got
revenge
fucking
attack.
beaten shit out of me in the sports hall when there was a disco going on. Jumped me from behind. He did. Otherwise,
It's low
it was quite a
blows,
different
man.
story. But some bloke jumped me from behind. Yeah, and I was all
Yeah, he's just gone for the tallest, biggest fella, and the rest will fall.
Well, I remember some weak-looking geezer who's not going to fight back.
But this must have
Probably.
been just a day in the life because, you know, as you're rising to popularity, you're obviously going to get a mixed bunch of, you know, appreciatives and non-appreciatives, aren't you? That,
Yeah, well, no, this was before that. This is just when we were kids. Well, notoriety. Yeah, I mean, you know, I suppose youths get notoriety, don't they? I mean, I don't know what goes on these days, but in those days, we were in our area, in Kentish Town, in Highgate Road, and then, this lot were from Brecknock. Wasn't that far away.
No.
And they're all wanting to be hard nuts. I don't know, you know, they're trying to think that it's proving something by
of course.
being harder than somebody else. So,
Yeah.
I've got a question for you guys. You'll probably be the best people to ask about this because for a lot of people, you know, you have certain genres and artists and people that fill your record collection. It must be speaking to you. It is unfathomable to think that there wouldn't be a madness in your record collection, but in a sense, there isn't a madness in your record collection because you did it.
You're inside it.
So
that
what
bubble.
is your equivocal? What is your madness? Ask individually here. What's your equivocal? You know, of standout moments that you say helped
me through?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, where can we start? I suppose Roxy Music's first album, Kilburn and High Road's Handsome, Elton John's, not Madman. What's the other one?
Tumbleweed Connection.
No,
Yellow Brick Road.
Honky Chateau.
That was Honky. That was Yellow Brick Road, wasn't it? Genesis, no?
Yeah.
Oh, early
That
Genesis.
On the old shoe conditioner. Lady Esquire. Yeah, Pink Floyd Medal and Supertramp. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow.
Crime of the century.
Yeah.
What about you,
I mean, that's funny. The other day I was in Lisbon Gardens in Highgate Road in Kentish Town, and I was thinking that you're nothing but dreamer, you're nothing but a dreamer. And there's this one place where there's a little park in Highgate Road, and I remember as a kid sitting there on the grass underneath this tree, and we had those little radios in those days, and I guess it must have been that, because for somehow or other, you know, I come there's that little tree, and there's Dreamer, and it's, you know, it's almost still playing there, you know, in that little spot.
Sparks memories. That's the
so all music is integrated in me, in all these memories of that time. It's like I was saying before, you know, there's certain songs, and there's a certain place, and it's kind of just baked in, you know.
Just certain moments that you, that.
Yes.
I can't explain how it happened, and then I'm particularly, you know, you know. What was it? Israelites, you know. I was with my brother. We were on bikes going to Thetford. We were on this bicycle trip. I don't know how old I was then. The first time it came out.
69.
I'm waiting for him to make a phone call or something. There's a little phone box as our bicycles. We're on our way to Thetford. It's a lovely, beautiful, sunny day. And Israelites is playing somewhere, and I don't know where it's playing. Why is it stuck there? I mean, it must have been playing somewhere, but I can't remember it all. But it's fucking, you know, it's stuck there like you know, rust on the metal. You know,
We're on the ring.
Can't separate them.
We're in Regent's Park boating pond. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's me, yourself, Kathleen, Chrissy, you know, the gang of us on this little rowing boat. And I remember having a solid state radio, about so big. Remember I had it from me paper round days. Had it for years. And double barrel come on radio.
Right. Yeah.
First time
I've got a memory. Yeah.
And
it connects to that boating pond.
Like,
Right. I mean, I got this. I'm walking by, you know, when you go by the football fields, when you're going to the boating bit.
Yeah.
I've always got this memory of that little bit there, just before you get to the bridge, or near that bridge. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
but somehow that song is stuck in my head.
Double barrel.
Yeah, double barrel, yeah. Anyway, so carry on, yeah.
Well, no, I just remember it. I remember it was getting to the solo bit or something in the middle eight, the chorus, whatever, and then it disappeared. And I just turned round from the road like, where's my radio gone? There's bubbles coming out.
Playing the music.
And I'm like, you chucked
That's
my
the
radio
trauma.
over.
That's the trauma in that memory for
But they
me.
turned
yeah.
it back on. There it was, you know,
Wow.
just winding us up. I thought, my old solid state.
Oh, right.
All 30p's worth.
Gutted.
Anyway.
So,
Was there,
yeah,
um,
music was a
Chrissy
kind of
boy,
background,
mine.
wasn't it, to
Yeah.
those days, for sure, yeah.
Was there any particular moment or song from the Madness collection which you then? It was almost like, okay, we have reached peak. This don't get any better. You know, we're talking from early days. Something that really tipped it over the edge. From a performance, you know, Top of the Pops used to. Back in the day, there used to be a program called Top of the Pops, and this was a thing. You know, things like that, things and stuff like
Well,
that.
I think, you know, with the Prince, One Step. What was after One Step?
Well, there's different moments.
Prince
isn't there? I mean, My Goal was a big thing.
Yeah.
Baggy Trousers
Yeah.
was a big
One
thing.
Step
I mean, they were
Beyond-
all doing something slight. I mean, Baggy Trousers was like definitely a big moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, for the blokes, it was a bloke song. Well, it wasn't just a bloke song, but blokes could dance without their handbags. And then My Girl came about, I remember Suxanne. All of a sudden, all the sort of big old bloke,
ladies.
big old blokes in their string vests, and that was just the women. No, then My Girl come out, and then we just had a following of like, young teeny boppers and that. And then, with Baggy Trousers, of course, it was back to norm. But the turning point, I thought, was, embarrassment, I think.
Yeah.
And that sort of, if I may say so myself. But it was, Paul Weller's favourite Madness song. But that
So
was,
I mean, you know, when you were saying before about how did we manage to maintain the success, if I think back, it was like each one of these songs was kind of, you know, you think they're going that way. Oh no, they're going there. Oh no, they're going there. So we kept like, you know, pitching out our kind of tent, you know, and we were. It felt like anyway that we were doing different kinds of music, different kinds of songs, and so we kept kind of stretching the boundaries, which I think made it last.
But you had a
longer. I
sound
don't
as
know.
well. It was a sound, though. You were able to extend that because the some of the parts in the music, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was listening. I went to do this thing yesterday with Soaks. We did an album signing down in Rough Trade, and we got this album out of covers. It's all covers, you know. And then before we went, we were going to do an interview, and I thought I better have a listen to it, see what's on it, you know. And so I went on YouTube, and somebody had done this little thing, you know, 3 minute, you know, well, no, not 3 minutes, 20 up 1 minute of each track, yeah. So I was listening to them, you know, quickly, all these different songs, and I thought, weren't a bad band actually. When because I heard them one after another, and I thought, band's not bad actually. I don't want to blow my own trumpet or anything. That's what I thought. You know, it might be completely off or whatever. But I did think, we were not a bad band, and we could do other people's songs, and they all sounded not bad. You know, so
that's brilliant.
So I guess we were kind of all right. Or I guess I think we were all right anyway. But also we were doing So each song was a bit different. So we were kind of maybe enlarging our audience. I don't know.
Musical palette.
But another thing is, which I have to say, which connects also to when you said, what's it like when it's all coming at me like that? I mean, you get a lot of creativity, you get a lot of energy. So, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day as well. When we went to Japan, and we had to do a single.
for a company.
For a company or something. We did an advert out
Honda.
there, and we were in the studio at one point, and we we're going to do a song. And I said, right, let's do this. And I kind of sat down, and when it goes like this, ding, 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 ding. And I just played it, and we did it, and we recorded it. It was like the songwriting.
God, that's good. It wrote
the
itself.
songwriting, it was all. It was such a confidence of knowing where we were at and what we could do that you could just sit down. It almost wrote itself, And I think you see that in bands when they're really popular, they do great stuff.
Yeah.
And then when they start to go downhill, and then, you know, that you get people saying, oh, I've got a blockage, or, you know, my creativity's blocked.
Yeah,
And it's, you know, and it's how you dance around that when you start, you know, when you start going on a less popular thing is difficult, you know.
Yeah. you're walking against the tide, right?
Yeah, so you don't have that encouragement, you don't have that support, and sometimes it's even you're going against the headwind, which is kind of what happened to us.
I admire the
All
bands
them
that
new
keep up.
romantics turn up, Duran Duran and all these horrible people.
Yeah.
And so suddenly we were last year's,
Chip paper.
Tate, I can't remember what the word is. Tate, the last year's kind of thing,
Right. Right.
So that was difficult, yeah.
I bet.
And we, blah blah blah.
It comes with the terrain, doesn't it? You can't, you have your time in your sun, you go back down and you come back again.
Yeah.
And it's just part of the artistic course, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you're riding that wave, it's fucking. It was. That's part of my French again.
It's all right, it's your podcast, mate. You can do the can if you want.
Yeah, there's such an energy. I mean, you see it in people. Yeah, you see it, and it's fantastic. Yeah, but it's a heady ride. Yeah. And when you go down, you want to watch out. Don't take your head with you because it did that a bit with me. Yeah.
Really, yeah.
It was like I had a bit of a difficult time. Yeah.
What period's that?
Well, when I left the band, wasn't it? 1984. That ended of 84, I think.
Yeah.
Christmas 84. I mean, it wasn't just for that reason, but it was difficult when you start going downhill. You take it all personally. It's like it's me going downhill. That was me going up, and now that's me going down. So you've got to have a little bit of distance.
So like once you have a number one, it's like where do you go from here?
Yeah,
Like,
The only way is down in a way. So
it's almost like a PTSD in a way, isn't it? It's you don't realise what is. People don't realise, the consistency of it, repeated
spinning those plates.
Yeah. And then after parties, show after party, show after. It's just I mean, it's a high class problem, but it does come at a cost, doesn't it?
In this case, it's just the way the mind works. I think you have the initial experience, and you think it's fantastic, and then you have it again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's maybe a bit of an off example, but I remember taking acid when I was a kid, and I had a first trip, and it was like fantastic, and I thought it was brilliant. I had a couple, and it was brilliant, and then I start, comparing. Oh, was it as good as that one? Was it? And then I started getting all these expectations, and like you start building up all these stories around it, and then I started getting like bad trips, and and then I thought, well, sod that, I'm not doing that again. And I had enough of that, But in the beginning, it's a clean plate. It's an empty page, isn't it? It's like a blank page in a book. And then, like you say, you go to this party, that party, you do this, you do that, and it all starts to get, Anyway,
It's a lived experience, my friend.
It's part of life. It's part of the, the wonderful thing we call life.
And the band is going strong. I do have a couple of notes that I do have to shout out for what you guys have got going on. This is your hotel tour for this year, already in play. So you guys are Arena Funhouse Weekender, Arena Tour, Funhouse Weekender, Butlins. That's one of the ones that you're doing. I'm giving you an inventory now. That's your itinerary.
For one night only.
Yeah, and that's something.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the Madness Weekend. What dates you got there?
I don't have the dates, but you can go and look them up on all good
we used to
touring.
do a Friday.
sites.
We'd sort of experiment with new material or play back to back old previous albums. Previous albums.
Yeah.
And
Don't lose your ice cream.
Now it's we're just doing the Saturday this time, but there's an all-star reggae band on the Friday night. I don't know who they are.
Yeah, so I do know. I've been told no announcements yet on any of these, but I am aware. Yes.
Right.
So there's going to be lots of good stuff on Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great approach there, Tom. We're not doing this. We're not doing
that. In
case you're thinking of not coming, we're not doing this.
It's sold out. What more do you want?
We're all right then.
all you need to
I've got half a dozen tickets.
We're saving ourselves. But slightly, we've done a lot anyway. Yeah, we did a lot, and we want to conserve ourselves. I mean, one time it went horribly wrong, but we don't want to talk about that, do we? When we stretched ourselves too thin.
What? With
the Friday night palaver. Friday night and not
Guns
having,
of
not
Brixton.
Guns of Brixton.
Oh, really?
It
All
was
got a bit
embarrassing.
too much,
Suggs
right?
walked off, kind of fuck
Yeah.
this. Nobody could.
It was, yeah.
All right. I mean, you don't. We haven't made a lot of mistakes, but when Guns of Brixton, yeah, great song though.
Yeah, we haven't put the time in. I don't think we put enough time.
We didn't put the time in. That was it. And you got to put the time in. It's it's work. It's
I've got more.
Anyway, that will be fantastic.
That's
that
gonna be a
will.
good one.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant.
3 days of nuttiness.
3 days.
That's another one that's on the cards. I hope I'm getting this right, Katie. I'm getting
I got
this
my
right.
son performing on the Sunday.
Yes, big up, Kai.
Son performing. Not Kai,
Oh,
no,
right.
my eldest son, Daly.
Ah,
with a
wicked.
band called The Silencers. And
Wow.
he writes some quirky songs.
Nice.
Nick Godwin's the main writer. I thought I'd give him a plug.
Yeah, give him a plug.
But yeah, they're on the Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, written some great songs. I went to see them in Barnet one time, and I thought they were great songs. Yeah.
Oh, the Chandos.
Original material I like particularly. Yeah.
Oh, it's always good when they...
few of their reggae classics.
Yeah, a bit different stuff.
54, 46 and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Great singer, his son.
Yeah, he's not a bad singer, mate. Taught him everything he knows.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all part of the lineage, you see. And it's just great that you guys are still operational.
Yeah, we still
Doing
ain't
what you do.
pulling each other's hair out.
Yeah.
Just
It
about.
still is. Yeah, a lot of people have said, "Do you still enjoy it?" I said, "Well, I'm starting to push my pension now. It'd be nice to take a bit of time off, but
sabbatical.
it is. There's plenty of time to take off later. As Sugg says, as long as if people are putting bums in seats, they're enjoying it. There's call for it. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Still
we
quite-
still enjoy. I mean,
yeah.
music is not, it's like timeless, isn't it?
yeah,
And the enjoyment is timeless, yeah, and our fans are timeless, as are we. So as long as, so we still enjoy it, yeah. And, we're still a good band, I think.
Yeah,
we
you
still make
fucking
good
are.
music, and
still compete.
hopefully while we can keep at it, we're keeping at it, yeah. I mean, who would have guessed? No.
Who would have
Bloody hell,
thunk it,
back
huh?
in 79, who would have thunk we would have got anywhere? But to still be here, I mean, that was my biggest shock that we, when we did that Madstock gig, and suddenly, I was telling you, we were going downhill, and it's kind of depressing. And then we didn't. Then I left the band for 10 years or something, and then we did this Madstock show in Finsbury Park, and it was just such a beautiful occasion, and all these people came out, and they were fucking loving it. I remember, we're playing away and there's people bouncing on the tents, on the beer tents,
Oh, my
They
God.
got the tents and they got this sort of
Sliding
slide
banners,
going on,
As
It's
the
such a
evening-
joy,
as the
wasn't it?
evening drew in, the lights, they lit the tent up. You see these little black sort of ants sliding
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Distance.
That was
But it was great, and such an energy, and even my brother came up to me and said he had tears in his eyes.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
he said it was great. Yeah, he said that song was great, and he'd always been. I don't know. He'd always had trouble saying that before. But that was the emotion that overtook everybody. Even took over my brother at that moment. Yeah. So that was Anyway, yeah.
A life of many lives. We're here.
So it all took off again, then and we kept at it, and it's really enjoyable. It's what we do, It's what we do. I think that's what we enjoy. I enjoy it always. I mean, it's nice not doing too much pressure. Like we've had a bit of time off now, but it's always a joy, I mean, it's even nice to see him after I haven't seen him for a while.
Well, it's just night and day. You guys have known each other for so long in all different walks of life, and this to me. I mean, I know this is being captured right now. It's just this feeling of just another day. This could be anywhere, but you guys have just got banter, glorious banter, and it's been a real pleasure having you guys on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a
Great.
pleasure chatting to you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. What more do you want, huh? Killa Kela podcast. Out like it was out of fashion from VIP Graffiti. Big up Bill, big up Kind back. Remember, sharing is caring. Crime don't pay, but neither do they. Don't talk to an I wouldn't. You stay lucky, people. Easy.
Nice one.
Woo!